The riots at the U.S. Capitol have ignited calls of impeachment and removal of President Trump from office. Wednesday's violent attack has also magnified the deep racial divide in the country, specifically when examining how law enforcement reacted to the mob versus how it responded to Black Lives Matter protests last year. For more on this, I want to bring in Derrick Johnson. He is president and CEO of the NAACP. Derrick, welcome. So great to have you with us. So you've now had some time to digest the shocking acts we all witnessed at the Capitol yesterday. First off, what are your thoughts?
It's unfortunate that individuals who are domestic terrorists are able to come to the nation's capital and terrorize not only members of Congress, but staff and others. I have friends who work at the Capitol, they're staffers, and when they heard the mob come into the building, they had to run for cover, and they were in fear of coming out. There's no way for anyone who's working for the people of this nation to have to operate in fear of their life. Secondly, it is the culmination of what we've seen growing over the last 4 years. With this president, we have been saying that racism and intolerance and xenophobia was germinated from the White House. He's been able to marshal a set of individuals to carry out disastrous activities using platforms such as Facebook and Twitter. It is an unfortunate occurrence, and this is not the America that any of us should be looking towards.
And of course, lawmakers are vowing to investigate law enforcement's response, its slow response to the rioters, and how law enforcement handled the situation. Civil rights leaders such as yourself are saying, you know, there's a double standard often in policing protesters, such as Black Lives Matter. What do you make of law enforcement's response to Black Lives Matter protests compared to the rioters we saw yesterday? I mean, there were scenes and video of rioters taking selfies with some of the police inside the Capitol building.
No, first of all, there was much intel of what this group was coming to D.C. to do. They had been talking about it on social media. The president actually was promoting it. And the fact that law enforcement agencies, particularly the Capitol Police, was ill-equipped to deal with what their stated purpose was, and it was to disrupt the certification of the election. That's in stark contrast to the peaceful protests that we've seen in D.C. and all across the country, made up of individuals who look like America. You've seen black and white, young, old, male, females, all peacefully protesting for justice and equity. And the response was as if they were criminals, and they were simply carrying out a First Amendment right to protest, to ensure that the public policy and the agencies that serve us, that's funded by our tax dollars, treat us fairly. And so there is some inherent bias, some structural racism that we can continue to talk about that's very clear and evident in less than 6 months. It is unfortunate that this administration has really fanned the flames of intolerance, and it's our hope that the incoming administration will reverse course and truly address these domestic terrorists, and so they can be held accountable while at the exact same time address the structural racist systems that have created this type of division.
Now, speaking of the division, we know that the political divide in this country is deep. There still exists a racial divide as well. From your perspective, how do we move forward as a country?
So first of all, political parties must stop using the tool of racism, of xenophobia, to score points. And we've seen that with senators yesterday. Secondly, the Southern way of politics was based on racial bloc voting. And now that regional problem is a national issue. We got to address it and stop allowing the very fundamentals of how our democracy is operated be driven by partisan considerations. We need to reform the administration of elections so it's not one in which people can manipulate to suppress vote. We need to open it up so everyone who are legitimate citizens can actually vote. And then political parties must adjust their platforms to attract voters based on their interests and not try to eliminate voters because they disagree with them.
All right, Derrick Johnson, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.